What's up?
What up, what up?
All right, everybody, we are in Ozone Park, Queens, and I'm joined today by the man, the myth, the legendary Richfie.
What up?
R&D Tattoo on Myrtle Ave, Queens, New York City. Check him out. I'm going to link the shop to the description and his Instagram and everything else. So we're walking to Ozone Park, and Rich is joining me today for a special reason, actually. We're heading to 110th Street, specifically the address of 10744 110th Street in Ozone Park.
It's my block.
Yeah, you grew up there. So what was it like, Rich? You grew up on 110th Street here in Ozone. So talk about that.
Yeah.
You're coming of age into your teens in like the 80s and 90s.
I mean, I grew up on Jamaica Avenue until 1988, I think. And then in 88, I moved here to like 110 by Liberty. It was a nicer neighborhood than Jamaica Avenue, but obviously there was some gangster elements in this neighborhood that maybe weren't so much in my neighborhood, in Jamaica Avenue.
Yeah.
It was a good neighborhood to grow up in. Like, I love it. I got a tattoo. I got 110th Street tattooed on my body. Like, this was like, you know, really, really where I came up. I love it. You know, it's my block. Like I'll always be my block, no matter what. I haven't lived here in 5 years now. I moved away 5 years ago from this neighborhood and from that block specifically. But it'll always be my block.
Yeah, and pertinent to this story, it is also the block of Joseph Scopo, who was essentially a neighbor of yours. You lived on the block where Scopo lived, where Scopo was shot dead on October 20th of 1993. Now, as far as you living on that block with Scopo, do you have any stories, any relationship with him?
Well, in 93, I was about 18, but I know that a lot of my dudes from the block, you know, that when they were little kids, that dude, I didn't know him well. I used to see him and like wave, you know, like you do any neighbor. But a lot of my dudes from the block, he let them use his garage to like hang out in. I don't know if he lived there full time. I'm not really sure. But yeah, like there's garages in like an alleyway on these blocks. Mm-hmm. And he let my friends, when they were little kids, like kind of have their garage as a clubhouse.
Nice, nice. Yeah, so he had the reputation of being a nice guy, a gentleman, I guess you could say. He comes up around this area. You know, originally he's growing up with the Gotti boys, the Ruggiero brothers, guys like that. I'll put up a photo which shows all those guys hanging out by the Berg, and I think the photo's from 70 or 71. But he becomes a Colombo mobster. His father was a powerful labor racketeer in the Colombo family, Local 6A, which is the Concrete and Cement Workers Union. So that's kind of where his father is funneling all this money and getting all this power for the Colombo family. And ultimately his father gets sentenced to 100 years in 1987 with the commission trial. So
the dude from the block's father, he did 100
Ralph
years?
Scopo, yeah. He got caught up in the commission trials, and he actually stepped down from the union in 85, and then Joe and his brother Ralph Jr. would take over. And by 87, he's going to go to prison with the commission trials. 100 years for extortion, labor racketeering, and all that. It sounds crazy, I know.
Like, we had no idea back in those days, like, I mean, the gangster dudes just were like the regular ass dudes on the block. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was we didn't know who these dudes were, you know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, a couple of the dudes you saw on TV, but like...
Yeah, so he's going to take over with his brother in the Local 6A, but by 87, when his dad goes away, I mean, he's forced to step down with his brother. And it would be, you know, I looked into, I don't know if you heard of Greg Scarpa. He was another Colombo guy. He was called him the Grim Reaper. So he was also like a 30-year rat with the FBI. So according to what he's saying in the files, you know, he was made around 1981. This is Joe Scopo. And then by, I think, about 89, he was made a capo in the family. And then, do you recall, like, back then, hearing about a lot of the violence that was going on? There was actually...
Oh, yeah, we used to see it.
There was actually...
This neighborhood was just all about that. Like, you know what I mean? There would be people getting killed. Like, you heard about it. There's bodies being found on the Belt Parkway.
Yeah.
You know, you get to have the city line. There was some wild shit going on the city line. You know, like,
And City Line is a neighborhood that's like in between Ozone and East New York. It's kind of like, yeah.
And it's kind of like, it's a little bit industrial.
Okay.
You know what I mean? This is more like residential.
Yeah.
City Line was a little bit more industrial to an extent. And then East New York was, you know, the Wild West back then. East New York was wild. See, now these are the alleyways.
Oh, cool.
So these alleyways we used to chill in, and there's all the garages from the houses are in here. So you'd either get in through your yard or you get in through these alleyways. Can
we walk through here and go around?
We're gonna ruin our sneakers.
Oh, okay.
It's disgusting.
Okay. Yeah. So specifically at this time, I mean, obviously you grew up in this area, so you heard a lot about the violence. There was the Third Colombo War was going on.
Okay.
And that was lasting from 91 to 93. You had like a dozen members and associates of the Colombos murdered in those 2 years. You had innocent people murdered. And this is because Persico and Arena split the factions. And there was a whole war. Now Scopo falling on the Arena side of that.
So that was during that whole war?
That was during the whole war. This was actually the war that kind of ended it all. This was like the last, you know, thing that would happen over here on October 20th of 1993. And apparently how this was ordered, Teddy Persico Jr. was at his grandmother's funeral over in Scarpacci Funeral Home in Brooklyn, in shackles. The feds had him there. They let him out of prison so he could see his grandmother's funeral. And he basically whispers to the couple of guys that you got to get rid of Joey. He's able to like whisper to them. And this is how this thing all gets set into motion. So this is 110th Street right here.
This is 110th Street right here.
Cool.
This is the block I grew up on. This is the corner I chilled on all the time. So, yeah, from the whole late 80s to through probably when I was too old to be sitting on a corner, I was standing on this corner.
Do you have any stories, any interactions with gangsters or wise guys or anything? Did you get into any shit ever?
I mean, they were around, you know what I mean? Like, we would have, like, sometimes us, like, Richmond Hill, Ozone Park dudes would, like, fight the Howard Beach kids and shit like that. But it was, like, usually their sons and shit.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And then we think, like, oh, shit, there's, like, you know, we're going to get whacked. You know what I mean? Because we fought somebody's son. But it nothing ever came of it. It was just a bunch of kids fighting.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, I guess like, you know, some interactions just from growing up in this neighborhood, you couldn't avoid it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, you go over to Cross Bay is where a lot of the restaurants are and shit. So we go up there, and the Howard Beach kids were usually more like gangsters kids than us, you know?
Yeah. And that was looked at more as like an affluent kind of thing.
That was more like, the right side of the tracks, and this was maybe
Howard
like,
Beach,
not really like the wrong side of the tracks, but it was like, you know, you want to head up this block?
Yeah, so we're heading up 110th Street. Now, on that night, you know, ultimately they put the hit team together. It's going to be...
So this house right here, this house that has no screen door.
Okay, which one are we looking at?
This 10767.
Okay, yep.
It's the house with the white fence and the mailbox.
Yep.
That's the house I grew up in.
So you grew up in that house right there?
Yeah. I lived there. That fucking corner right window was my fucking bedroom for decades. So after my father died, my mom left, and I stayed in that house for until quarantine. So I lived there until quarantine ended. Yeah, it started. My mom's left, and then we finally sold the house. Yeah, it must have been like a few years ago.
And this whole block is like connected houses, right?
It's a whole block here. 70,
crazy.
70 houses on this block.
70 houses, and they're all connected, as you guys can see.
There's a lot of people, so you got to figure like 70 houses back in the day when it was like, you know, maybe 25 of the houses had people my age in them. Yeah. So we had a crew. You know what I mean? It was like, you know, it's just on this block alone. Like I have 110. We used to call ourselves, you know, 110th Street boys. Like, you know, you had like 25 heads.
Let me see that tag.
30 heads. There's 25 of us chilling on the block, like at any given moment. So it was a pretty wild scene.
So, Rich, on the night of October 20th, 1993, do you recall that night? What were you doing that night?
I can tell you exactly. I remember that night very well.
Very well.
We were sitting, I'll show you the stoop we were sitting on. So it was maybe like 7 of us, 8 of us. I don't even remember exactly how many of us were sitting on the stoop. and we had a boombox out. You know, we were probably smoking weed. We were probably drinking, you know, definitely drinking beer. I must have been like 18. I think I was 18 years old. And we had a boombox on, and we had a Beastie Boys tape in. So it must have been like right around the time, like, no, because Paul's Boutique, I guess, came out like 89. So we were listening to the album Paul's Boutique, which has a song on it called Eggman.
Yeah.
So that song comes on. We're the 110th Street Boys. There's a whole nother crew on the next block over, the 109th Street Boys. They were a little bit younger. We used to kind of like fuck with them a little bit. So the boombox comes on, and Eggman comes on. So I'm like, hey, you know what we should do? We should get some eggs and bomb the 109 boys. Like, you know what I mean? Just like, let's throw eggs at them.
Block to block beef, right?
Yeah, but like friendly beef.
Yeah.
You know, friendly fire. It was fun. We used to shoot them with paintball guns. We used to come around, fuck around with them. So I had a big Chrysler at the time. We all pile into that Chrysler. We go up to 111th Street and Liberty, go to get eggs, but it's right near Halloween.
Yep.
So the dude's like, I'm not selling, you know, it's whatever time it is, it was nighttime. I'm not selling you guys eggs. Obviously, why are you trying to buy 5 dozen eggs? You're a bunch of kids, you're about to throw these eggs at people. Yeah. So he says, no, you can't buy eggs. So we're like, all right, bet. We're bummed out. So that's right on 111. So it must have got there. We must have got there in like 3 minutes. I come drive back down 111th Street, come back down 109th Avenue, and it's crazy because we stop right here. So I come back up right here, and then like right here, the shit's going on up there. Like right here, I see like somebody like this. It's my father. So my father came out the house. He heard the gunshots. He's in his tighty whities, nothing else. He's a big man. He's like a big fat man. You know what I mean? So I see him standing, just like looking around in his tighty whities. I pull up right here. I get out the car. I'm like, yo, Dad, what the fuck are you doing? I thought he like lost his mind or something. Yeah. What are you doing? He goes, oh, we thought you got shot. I was like, I got shot? What are you talking about? And then like I kind of like unraveled everything, and then I saw the dude, Joe, that lived in our house, was in the middle of the street. Somebody was holding him.
Yeah.
The cops just started pulling up, so I had to pull my car right up near that hydrant right there. The cops all start coming, and somebody's holding that dude in the street. And then maybe at about one of these houses right here, the other dude that was with him also got shot. He was laying down, but he was alive.
Yeah.
The other dude was dead. Yeah. You could tell the other dude was dead. I think it was his son holding him.
Yeah,
in the street.
In that car that night was his future son-in-law, Angelo Barone, and his nephew, Dominic Lagazzo. So those are the guys that came back from eating, and they pulled up over here. Now, as they're pulling up, there is a hit team of guys that are here, and
but like, yo, we were gone for like 6 minutes.
Really? So you just missed it?
So the when I told you before, when you asked me about it, like the differences of what the story was, because even though we were only gone for like 6 minutes, you know, you get like the different stories about what happened and whatever. There was a house over there, right across the street from the stoop we were hanging out on, that people on the block said the people were hiding in those bushes.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true. Another crew of older people on this block was like, no, they came on motorcycles. So, you know, like when shit happens, I don't know what, but all I know is that, like, I always used to joke around and say the Beastie Boys saved my life.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I was sitting right there, like we were sitting two stoops away from where dude got killed. And if he would have pulled up and we were there, maybe we were witnesses.
Right.
Maybe they just lit us all up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, like I said, I don't know.
Yeah.
I wasn't here for the actual.
Anything's possible, man. It wouldn't be the first time that a innocent person or a non-mobster would have gotten killed in that war. Of course, if they're firing bullets, you never know where these bullets are going to go.
But I'm telling you, it was close.
So we'll go over like the official story. This comes from most of it from one of the guys who ended up becoming a foreman, Colombo Capo, Anthony Russo. So this is involves crash cars and, you know, the actual shooters.
He was what? His house was 107.
107.44.
Yeah,
so
right.
we're coming up to it actually, which is going to be.
It's right here. It's this.
Which is going to be this one right here, where it says.
The ADT one.
There you go.
This was his crib.
So this is the house right here, former home of Joe Scopo, right here on 110th Street, 107.44.
This stoop here, 38.
Yeah.
This is where we were all posted up.
This is where you were.
Yeah, so we were all on this stoop.
So you were on the stoop right here at 107.38, and then I'm just going to pan over to Scopo's house.
No, they changed the houses around a little bit, so I'm a little confused.
There, that
no, we were on this stoop. 36. We were on this stoop. And them rails weren't there at the time. So we were on this stoop. We were at 36, actually.
Oh, so you were on 36.
36.
Okay, okay, cool.
So we were all posted up. There was all seats out in here. This was all set up super different back then.
So you were posted up right over here.
Yeah, and then this house right here.
And then right over there, once again, over there where that flag is, the house next door, the gray one, that was Scopo's home.
Right, and that house right there, that was my homie Rob's house. That had bullet holes in it.
Wow.
And then this house right here was this dude Tom's house, who was a crazy fucking guy.
Tom?
If he still lives there, he's got to be dead by now. But his house was fucked up. He was a drunk.
Yeah.
He's come out naked and shit. His house was always like mad overgrown. This neighborhood looks real nice now.
Yeah.
But at that time, it was like you had a lot of older people that was just been here forever. They inherited their mom's houses. So his house was always mad overgrown and fucked up. So he had, you see how all these houses have these little cubby holes?
Yeah, yeah.
So what I was told when I got back to the block was Tom's house had all bushes and the cubby holes were overgrown.
Okay.
And that's where the dudes hid.
So I'll go over it, and then I'll show you some of the pictures from the news that shows his car. And I just want to go over some of the players that were here on 110th Street. So you had a guy by the name of Frank Ware and Eric Curcio in crash cars, but the actual shooters on this thing was Anthony Russo, was the guy that ended up cooperating. He was the guy that was driving the car. And then you had John Papa and John Sparacino. Those are actually the shooters. Now, if you look over here, Rich, and when you watch this, I'm going to put up the, he was driving a light-colored 1993 Nissan Altima. Now, from what I can tell from the crime scene photo, I believe his Altima was parked right across from his house, right where this gray SUV is right here.
Well, yeah,
because the photo matches the windows.
Because you see that house that's like condemned right there?
Yep.
That was my boy Rob's house, and that house had bullet holes in it.
So that house next door had bullet holes. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that house had.
So that makes sense.
They call bullet holes.
And I'm going to put the crime scene photo to match this. And as you can see, where Rich is standing right here, I'll give you guys a view of the block, and then we'll come back around and directly across the street from Scopo's home right here. So Rich, I don't kind of understand what's going on with these houses. So they're all connected. So right. In the back there's an alleyway with garages.
Right. So if you go through the house and go through the back door,
yeah, then
you get into an alleyway.
Okay.
Then you get into a garage, and then you go through the garage and get into the alleyway. So these two blocks have long alleyways behind them.
Right. Right.
So we would chill in the alleyways. We would, like I said, this particular dude. Before I moved here, when my friends from the block were like children, like 8, 9 years old, he let them hang out in like the garage.
Okay.
And I think they just kind of squatted in his garage, but he didn't care.
Right.
Because like I said, I didn't know the dude. Just kind of waved to, neighbors, like we were kind of a nuisance on this block. The community really didn't love us that much, you know what I mean? Because the 25 of us drinking 40s on this block pretty regularly.
And it's interesting that a guy with, such a powerful racketeer, a guy who you would seemingly think, his father was at the head of the president of the local 6A, making millions of dollars for the Colombo family. You would think maybe he'd probably have a big house somewhere, or You know, but these guys, they just stuck around the neighborhood.
Yeah,
I mean,
there was another
it's
dude. There was another dude up the block this way, and I don't recall his name, but everybody said he was a gangster too.
Oh yeah.
You know, he was like he would dress too like in like sweatpants, like not like a sweatsuit like you see, like, you know, like the mean sweatsuit, like he's like dirty sweatpant type of dude. But he always had like a fancy hat on.
Interesting. Like
a nice like fedora type hat.
Okay.
And somebody else had told me, like, you could tell he's a gangster because he got a nice hat. Like, that's an expensive hat. But he was dressed like a dirtbag. But I don't even, he was up the block. But that was like, you know, I kind of got to this block, like, at the very beginning of white flight.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, that's like as my family was moving in, a lot of the people that came up in this neighborhood were moving to Long Island. You know what I mean? So it was like, you caught some like older dudes on this block that might have been, you know, connected or something like that. But they were like, they were in the process of like leaving as I was getting here. You know what I'm saying? It was like I said, it was the beginning of, you know, this neighborhood turning Caribbean. Yeah,
so what do you got? A lot of Guyanese, Trinidad, West Indies, stuff like that,
Caribbean
Jamaican, stuff like that. Yeah, it's hard to believe. At one point, Ozone Park, you know,
Richmond Hill, Ozone Park was like Gangsterville.
Yeah, I mean, so many people here. So, Rich, where is 10735? Where exactly is that? That's going to be that way, right?
10735 is going to be up this way.
It's going to be up this way because according to the news reports, that's actually in front of the address where after Scopo was shot in the vehicle, he gets out of the vehicle and he is finally finished off on the street. And then you're saying that you saw somebody holding him up.
Yes.
So that would have been right here at 10735, if that makes sense to you, Rich.
Yes.
Right here. And you lived down the block.
I lived at 67.
To your left.
107, 67, and we were hanging out on this stoop.
So
always. This was my cousin Eric's house.
So Scopo falls right here at 10735. That's according to reports and according to the press conference they had that night on television. And you're saying that you're hanging out mostly over here.
I hung out on this stoop a lot.
You're hanging out over here.
We're hanging out on this stoop a bit, this stoop a bit.
On these
and then there's a couple of stoops out there.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to remember which one was. It's been a minute since these people lived here, you know, so I'm trying to remember. I think it was. Yeah, 37.
Okay.
Would have been this dude Tom's house, the drunk.
Okay, Tom the drunk.
And you see there's like a cubby hole there with where the cone is. Supposedly this was all overgrown when I was a kid. Okay. This whole house was overgrown. Everybody said that they were either hiding in there or that's where the people were that waited on him. So if you really see, like, they waited on him there across that stoop. I was on this stoop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I was directly across the street, and then they got him going into that house. So it was like...
So they were driving a four-door brown Buick that night, but there is kind of conflicting reports. You know, John Papa was said to
They pulled up.
Yeah, they pulled up, but then Papa was said to maybe have been in a bush or jumped out from somewhere when Scopo finally hit the floor. But Sparacino, I think, officially is the shooter, but there's a couple of different narratives with that.
And the dude that was with the dude Joe that got killed, he made it up the block. He started running.
Yeah.
So he made it all the way up almost to my house.
So that was either...
which I think, from what my father said, my father's gone now, I can't even ask him, but what my father said, he heard the gunshots getting closer to my house. So maybe this dude was running and shooting.
Possible.
You know what I mean? Because he's like out, so he came out, and, you know, the whole block was out at that point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, it was, I don't know what time it was. It was probably pretty early. It was probably like 10 o'clock at night or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't that late. Yeah.
But yeah, it was a wild scene that night.
Yeah. So from, I think it would be the summer, I think it was August of '93, they get the word to do this job. And as I've been mentioning, by October 20th, 1993, right here on Rich's old block, 110th Street, Joey Scopo would lose his life. Let's get a look down the block. Now, Rich, did you have any other stories from the neighborhood after this happened? We could start walking back this way. We'll get another view of Scopo's home. while we do that, one real quick, we'll look at this house. So you have this American flag here, then you have this gray home right here. The former residence of Joseph Scopo at 10744 110th Street. And then once again across the street, I'm going to line up that crime scene photo again. You can see those windows are still the same. So the 1993 white Nissan Altima was parked right there where that SUV is. And as we said, he ran that way. So Rich, as I was asking, do you recall any like alternate stories? I mean, I know you said before people thought it was motorcycles or anything else popping up in the days after this event happened.
No, but I do remember, like, you know, like I've been around this type of stuff like my whole life, but like I was never at all remotely involved in that type of lifestyle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I do remember like all the older people on the block who we thought were like, you know, kind of like tough.
Yeah.
You know, like the older men that, like, you know, the working class dudes are like the news coming here and they're like, we didn't see nothing.
Yeah, yeah. We didn't see
you know what I mean?
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I do remember like that whole vibe where it was like, I was like, oh shit, this was like some serious shit. Like, I didn't know it was a mob hit.
So you weren't aware, I mean, you knew him from the blog, hey, hello, goodbye, this and that, but you weren't really aware of...
I mean, there was, everybody like was like a little bit
right,
like,
right.
You know what I mean? Everybody was like, and it was a time in this neighborhood where it's like, even if a dude didn't know people, he fronted like he knew people.
Yeah, that too.
You know what I mean? Like, like there was a dude like up the block this way, on this next block, we used to call him the Macho Man. Like, you know, everybody in the neighborhood, they got like these crazy ass nicknames and shit.
Yeah.
So there's a dude up the block, not Macho Man, and he was like the bartender at the club, Gotti's Club on 101st Avenue.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So he was the bartender there, and he used to come talk to my dad used to always be chilling on that stoop. That was my stoop right there.
So where's your house one more time?
That's it right there,
The yellow one.
10767, yeah.
Cool, man.
My dad would always chill on the stoop, and this dude would come and tell stories, like, but like, you didn't know if to believe them or not to believe them, but everybody was dropping names at that time. You know what I mean? It was just like, this neighborhood was rife with, you know, gangsterism. So it was like, same thing in Woodhaven, where I grew up. It was like, I was just part of, it was like baked into the cake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just like,
yeah, and you know what, man? People that are going to watch this, people in other parts of the country, people, I got a lot of people overseas that watch this. I know they're going to enjoy it because you're from this area, and it's always cool when somebody who grew up in the area and someone that, you know, specifically you, recalling the events of this night. And like you said, Rich,
it feels crazy to be back on this corner right now. Just saying, like
you said, I mean, even on YouTube or online, you know, there's a lot of people who they're always saying, oh, I knew this guy, I knew that guy. You know, there's a lot of people that want to be a part of something. But all that aside, as you mentioned today, something that I mentioned back then, it wasn't hard for someone like you or your neighbor to know these guys. Like, it wasn't a big deal. Like, oh yeah, he's just this guy from the neighborhood. He's that guy from the neighborhood. It wasn't like
it wasn't exotic.
Yeah, it wasn't exotic.
Like,
that's a good way to say it.
You see like all these, like, I know, like I get caught up like in these like YouTube like gangster holes.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? And I watch like everything, and I'm like, oh shit, I remember that. I seen that guy around. I seen this guy around. Yeah. Like, these were dudes that were driving in the neighborhood. These were bars that were, you know, like I hung out at the bar on 105th and Liberty. That was the bar I hung out in. It's a bar I grew up in, basically.
Yeah.
And like, it was mad fucking, you know what I mean? Like, there was dudes, like I would see all those dudes there almost on a daily basis, but I didn't understand. I'm 18 years old. You know what I mean? I didn't want to be involved with these people, so I didn't really like care to, like, you know, buddy up to them. But it was like, then I watch all these gangster shows, like, oh shit, I remember that guy, I remember that guy, I remember this.
Some of the guys you say Woodhaven, Jamaica Ave, you'd be like guys like Ronnie One Arm.
Yeah, I used to see that dude around
John
all the
A.
time.
Light, guys like that.
Yeah, we used to see those dudes around all the time.
Yeah.
Like, that was just like, they were just like the older cats in the neighborhood that were like scary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It wasn't.
Yeah. I'm happy you said that, because a lot of people hate on John A. Light because they feel he's exaggerated some of his claims, and he probably has a little bit. But at the same time, he was.
I didn't know him, but I remember being around Jamaica Avenue. Like, I remember him, his name I remember hearing his name, and I remember people that fuck with him.
Yeah.
That's all I can tell you about him. I don't know anything else about him. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But all those dudes, there was a whole bunch of them. Like, you know, not to dry stitch, so you know, but I don't know.
Yeah, no,
I don't know what any of them were doing, but I knew that like people didn't fuck with them.
Yeah.
That's what I could tell you. You know.
Yeah, no, I don't think you dry snitch. I mean, this is like you grew up here, man. I mean, it is what it is, you know. So, Rich, I really appreciate you joining for this. I think this was pretty cool.
I actually,
it's like a memory lane for you.
Sunday morning, like standing on this corner is actually kind of crazy because even though it's only been a few years that I moved out of here, it's been decades since I'm like outside here. You know what I mean? Like where I'm like talking about like shit that I seen and thinking about the block and thinking about, you know, drinking beer on the block and shit. Like, you know, it's a pretty wild lifestyle. It was a pretty fun neighborhood to grow up in.
Yeah, man. Yeah, Queens. Well, you know as well as I know that Queens is the best.
It is the best.
You know, we all know that, right, guys? You guys know that. So, Rich, listen. Thank you so much. I want you to plug your tattoo shop. Tell us what the deal is.
Richfie. My Instagram is @Richfie, RICHFIE. Own and operate R&D Tattoo, which is @RD Tattoo on Instagram. I've been tattooing like, you know, about 20 years in Queens. I love Queens, love tattooing, and you know, that's what I do.
That's what he does. As he says in his Instagram bio, your favorite tattoo artist, is that right?
Shit, yeah, that's true. I stole that from a rapper though.
All right, guys, thanks so much. Thanks for joining me and Rich. I hope you enjoyed this.
Peace.
Peace.